Keep making content.
Hey friends, like I keep saying, there is a lot in Gypsy's book that I missed the first time around because initially, we were kind of focused on a few specific things and I searched for those things and kind of scanned her book. But now we know so much more from the new FOIAs that these are taking on more interest. So I wanted to go over chapter 15 called The Hideout from Hell. That's what she named it, friends. That's what she calls Nick's house, the hideout from hell. That further confirms my speculation, and of course it's just a speculation, just an opinion, that part of the reason why she blew up the plan and revealed the murder through Facebook is that she just didn't like being at Nick's place. And she really thought that she was going to be okay. And what she wrote in here seems to further confirm that. So after she starts the chapter, The Hideout from Hell, she says Nick had booked a room at Days Inn in Springfield and it was dawn by the time we checked in. The plan was to take the bus to Wisconsin later that day, except there wasn't two bus tickets available until days later on June 12th. So we holed up in the hotel, ordering pizza every day while I ate painkillers in between meals. I was high as a kite and didn't think about what would happen when I ran out of oxy. Okay, so we know now from the FOIA evidence that there's a whole lot she left out there. First off, she just completely skates over the fact that Nick had a bus ticket back and there was no ticket for her, and how that makes no freaking sense with their story and their escape plan. She obviously had another plan that didn't go as she expected and had to get a ticket and go back with Nick when she didn't want to. That's my opinion anyway. What do y'all think, friends? Let me know in the comments. I skipped a few paragraphs where she's going on and on about how high she was. She says, "This morning we were finally to depart from the morning we were finally to depart from the bus depot. Nick and I decided to discard the murder weapon." So they kept it in the hotel with them that whole time. I was always kind of under the impression that they mailed it ASAP after the murder. I don't know. Let's look at the evidence pic. It surely has a post-date stamp on there. Look there, June 11th, 2015. So if Dee Dee was murdered early in the morning, June 10th, then they would have had that in the hotel with them all day, June 10th, and overnight, and then mailed it the next day on the 11th. I believe they left on the bus for Wisconsin for the 12th. I have to look again, but yeah, that's just gross, friends. They had it in the hotel with them overnight. Gypsy says, "The morning we were finally to depart for the bus depot, Nick and I decided to discard the murder weapon. At first, he suggested that I put it in my backpack and take it on the bus ride back to Wisconsin. I'd never been on a bus and I was afraid I'd have to pass their metal detectors, so I said, let's mail it." Okay, is that even true? Because we saw also in the crime scene evidence a Springfield reduced bus fare card in Gypsy's name with her picture on it on her dresser. So I guess, a city bus would be different, I presume. I've never rode a city bus, but I presume it would be different from like a Greyhound, like a multi state bus. Maybe that's what she means if we're being generous. I don't know, friends. It just sounds like another lie. What do y'all think? Gypsy says, "I didn't think it would be different than when people purchase kitchen knives through the internet and have them shipped. No big deal. So we put the knife in a manila envelope and mailed it to Nick's parents' house. I even put my return address on it. Reality was not a place I resided in." Now, that's a true statement if she ever wrote one. Reality was not a place I resided in. I don't think it still is a place she resides in. What do y'all think? She says the knife made it safe and sound to its destination and was eventually recovered by detectives. It was used as evidence against us both after it was found hidden in Nick's closet. She freaking put it there, friends. God, this woman, the way she writes, I swear, the way she twists the facts. She says, "After we dropped off our mail, we ate at the Waffle House. I wasn't used to eating or drinking, and the drugs made me nauseous. So the short stack and chocolate milk I ordered made me sick to my stomach. One of the legitimate medical conditions I have is lactose intolerance, so I was doubled over in pain. We had to go back to the room so I could lie down before our long trip to Big Ben." She always says one of the legitimate medical conditions, and those add up. So we have lactose intolerance, chromosome deletion of 1q21.1 chromosome, microcephaly. Her skull measurements fell within a centimeter of the microcephalic range, from what I understand. She complained in her prison emails to Ryan Anderson while they were married that she didn't think she was going to be able to work whenever she got out because of one of her real conditions of mild scoliosis in her back. She says that she hurts so bad after an hour of standing. We also know she has eye problems, and that if Dee Dee hadn't had the eye surgeries on her, that she probably would be cross-eyed, possibly blind by now. Like, they just keep adding up, friends. There's more I can't even think of. There's something with the roof of her mouth being too high, something with her esophagus and stomach where a test was done. And then I believe records have been recovered from where when the feeding tube was put in, she was severely underweight and spent a month in a feeding hospital, and they couldn't get her weight up until after they put the feeding tube in. They recorded her as having feeding aversion. And that is really freaking interesting, friends, a feeding aversion considering on life after lockup. It was really odd when she was pregnant and losing all that weight. And Kian said that one time, well, you don't eat. And she's like, don't say that. The rumors. And we all thought it was just about her losing weight. But now I think it's actually about her knowing that she actually has eating problems and eating aversions and doesn't want people to know that because it takes away from her murder vindication story. What do y'all think, friends? Am I right or am I reaching there? Let me know in the comments. Gypsy says, in my delusional mind, I was preparing to meet the love of my life's family. I wanted to make a good impression on his mother. I felt bad that we had to lie to her, telling her that the reason I was coming to live with them and why it was so urgent for Nick to come get me was because my mother kicked me out of the house. Nick's mother thought she was providing me refuge from a homeless shelter. I hadn't even met her yet, and I'd already betrayed her kindness. Friends, I know that it is not yet confirmed of why exactly Dee Dee looked up that rare breed homeless shelter and the directions to it, but my gut feeling is she wanted to see if she could get Gypsy in some classes and possibly a housing situation to get her independent. Because Gypsy had already shot her with a dang pellet gun 10 times and then held a knife over her and kept acting crazy. Dee Dee knew she was going to kill her. Gypsy said that in her book. She said in another chapter where she was describing their March 12th, 2015 Cinderella movie meeting. She said on their way out to the van, Dee Dee said, are you trying to kill me? You know my health is bad. You already tried to shoot me once. I swear if I die, Gypsy, it will be you that did it. And because of those things, to me, it just points to the truth being that Gypsy was likely telling Nick that Dee Dee was trying to kick her out, and that wasn't part of a lie story. But she doesn't want that to be known, definitely not in her 2024 memoir, because that takes away from her I was held captive story. That completely upends it. You know what I mean, friends? And what do y'all think? If you think that Dee Dee was maybe looking it up to volunteer for a different reason, it's okay. I might be wrong. Let me know in the comments. Gypsy says the entire time with Nick's family, over the course of about 2 days, we stayed upstairs in Nick's room. His mom, stepdad, 8-year-old brother didn't bother us much. Nick didn't drive, so we walked to the gas station for drinks and snacks. But other than that, he wanted to be naked in his room the entire time. Being naked in bed were his orders, and as a submissive, I obliged. He didn't want to have sex with me or anything. He just demanded that when I was in his presence, I be naked. After the first night, I looked around his room and was disgusted by dirty clothes, wrappers, and moldy food. He hoarded like my mom had, except she didn't have old food lying around. I tried to ignore the crusty sheets and sweat-stained comforter. When I asked him to use his shower, I remember thinking I hadn't seen him shower since the moment he arrived at my mother's house. Not once in the hotel, not once when we got to his home. That is really interesting, friends, because she's called her mom a hoarder and talked about how the state of the house was gross. And when she describes Nick's room here, it sounds like how she talked about Ryan's house. And it sounds like her mom's place, she's admitting, was relatively clean. I mean, what do y'all think? Am I reading too much into this here? Am I right or am I reaching? Because, like, what the hell? And she talks about Nick not showering when she was notorious in prison for that. But listen to this, friends. Gypsy says, observing more of his lifestyle, I began to question how long I could live there. It was the first time I had any foresight. How would we live? Would I get a job? What would I do day after day? Without an anchor or compass, I wanted my mother. And then I washed that thought right away with a Xanax and half an Oxy, rationing them now. Do you hear those words, friends? Like, to me, that sounds like she's basically admitting that she blew it all up because she didn't like being at Nick's place. And that was such a bullshit line that she said. This was the first time I had any foresight. We all saw that whole video where she sat in Dee Dee's bed telling him that she talked to Dee Dee about setting them up in a living situation and how she wasn't going to help them financially at all. And they need money for a house. They need a car. They need blah, 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 this and that. She expects us to believe she never had any foresight. For fuck's sake. She said, how will we live day to day? Would I get a job? She planned to be an artist like she keeps trying to do now. Big fart art and her crochet. I have to say, I think her crochet is better than her painting. But yeah, she got there and she was like, "Oh shit, I want my mommy." But you had her killed, Jip. Then she says, "Well, Nick and I quarantined in his room." My mind wondered. We didn't have a plan for the aftermath. What if no one found her body? What if the police never wrote anything in the notepad and she just decomposed, or worse, our hungry cat feasted on her? Frantic, it became urgent for me to figure out a way to get someone to go over to the house to find her and to bury her like she had once wanted once she passed. "Don't you dare cremate me," she'd say. "You stick me in the ground. I get enough hot flashes as it is." I logged on to mine and Dee Dee's joint Facebook account and changed the status to "That bitch is dead." It was the complete opposite logic of removing the pictures of myself from the wall. Another lie. She didn't remove pictures of herself. She removed pictures of Dee Dee, and I can't figure out why. Because we see in some of those videos where there was a picture of Dee Dee on, if you're facing the fireplace, on the right side of the fireplace, there was a picture of Dee Dee, and on the left, there was a picture of Gypsy. She removed that picture of Dee Dee because it's gone in the crime scene pics, and she left the one of herself there. And I can't figure out why she did that, friends. It really bugs me, and why she lies about it and says that she took pictures of herself to pretend she wasn't there, when she left pictures of herself everywhere and only removed a few pictures of Dee Dee. It feels like those pictures of Dee Dee probably revealed something. What do y'all think? Gypsy says, almost immediately, people thought we were hacked and messaged us asking if everything was okay. One person even wondered if we were watching a movie. Worried nobody was concerned enough, I elaborated, posting, "I fucking slashed that fat pig and raped her sweet innocent daughter." Her scream was so effing loud. The police were called and the search for me began. Unbeknownst to me, the media went wild with the story. Our neighbor, Aaliyah, knew about my secret boyfriend and Facebook page after I had a rare moment with her alone and confided in her, trying to connect with a girl my age on a matter I guessed was relatable: boys. She didn't have a moment alone with her. She Facebook messaged her. And we know Gypsy had tons of time alone. So I don't understand why she felt the need to put so many lies in this book in 2024 when she knew people were getting FOIAs. Friends, I do not get it. She really thinks people just believe whatever she says, and a lot of people do. They have to give it to her on that. Gypsy says, she was so worried. Another one of my betrayals that still haunts me. Aaliyah was kind and generous and told detectives about my online boyfriend. Didn't take long for the police to track my laptop's IP address to Nick's home. Gypsy took a laptop with her. Listen to that, friends. Gypsy took a laptop with her. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Now we got to dig that out in the information. Gypsy says on June 15th, 5 days after the murder, armored police vehicles and what looked like a SWAT team surrounded Nick's family's house, treating the situation as a kidnapping. What made her think they were treating the situation as a kidnapping yet? Huh, interesting. Because the investigators already knew about her messages, I thought. I don't know. It says, I can't imagine the fear and confusion that came over Nick's family, especially his little brother, as the police removed them from their own home. Then over the loudspeaker, we heard, "Nick, go to John. Come out with your hands above your head." I looked at Nick. He looked at me. We were both naked. Robotically, quietly, we dressed. Hearing a forceful voice call out Nick's name like he was a known fugitive was surreal, dreamlike. I didn't think yet that I was in trouble, but I also didn't know what our next move would be. Did you hear that? She didn't think yet that she was in trouble. That confirms what we've thought all along, friends. Yeah. She thought she was going to go home to her pink house, live in Springfield, Missouri, and keep sexting Dan, arguing with his girlfriend. "Come here," Nick said, pointing to where he was standing in front of his closet. We both got into the closet, locked the door, and sat. "What are we going to do?" I asked Nick, my only guiding light. "We just stick to the story. Your mom kicked you out. You were on the streets. I came to get you to live with us. We stick to that story no matter what." Realizing we were about to be separated, I began to tremble. The gravity of losing him pulled on my heart. "Okay," I answered, "stick to the story, but I promise I'm going to get you the best lawyer money can buy with the $4,000. Good God. We sealed our pact with a kiss. Nick let me go downstairs to the front door first. I remember being at the landing before taking my first step and seeing all of the police in military gear like you would see about on the news about troops in Afghanistan. I was about to descend into a sea of bulletproof vests and helmets and guns. They had lasers on them. The lasers are pointed at me. "Hold your fire, don't shoot, don't shoot." Several voices collided. They hadn't expected me to come down first. "Keep your hands where we can see them." Instinctively, I put my arms up like a goalpost. "I'm okay, I'm okay." I kept saying, "I'm unarmed, I'm coming down." The instant I appeared at the back door, A hand yanked me like a cane yanks a bad act off a stage. I was swooped away by my shoulders, carried off as if my kidnapper was at my heels. They cuffed me behind my back and set me down on the hood of the police car, firing off question after question. What's your name? How old are you? What is your social security number? I told them I was Gypsy Rose Blanchard with an E at the end and that I was 19. I was really about a month shy of 24, the same age as my mother when she had me. I had no clue about my social security number. Oh, bullshit. Bullshit. She had her card with her. The question continues. Does he have any weapons, any bombs? Has he hurt you? I told him he hadn't, waiting for Nick's silhouette to appear in the doorframe. Then I saw several police officers holding on to him and body slamming him onto the concrete where they cuffed him. And I remembered him hollering, "Hey, you're hurting me." So, yeah, she admits that she actually thought they were treating it as a kidnapping, but clearly they handcuffed her. You know what I mean? I don't think they were. What do y'all think, friends? And then she glosses over so much. She says, "The room I waited in had a comfortable couch, and I remember a fish as if they didn't buy that for on the way to the hospital." She glosses over how she was flirting with the guard, says she babbled in her nervousness and being high. And then, whenever she's describing Nick, she says that it took 10 minutes for Nick to give her up, as if he hadn't been. And I'm not the biggest Nick defender, we all know that. But she says that as if he hadn't already been in that room for 13 hours, handcuffed to a chair while she was playing with her stuffed fish and napping. You know what I mean, friends? Anyway, I just found all that really interesting, just how much she admits, but yet how much she doesn't admit and glosses over. I want to know what y'all think, friends. Let me know in the comments, and we'll go out with a little palate cleanser. Hope everyone's having a good day.